Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be continue on just doing random practice with some models I have for my second Indominus box set that I never did anything with. And so for today we're going to be painting a Necron Overlord and a Noble. After assembly, the Necron Overlord is essentially fully built. The Noble, his gun and his chest piece are separate for ease of painting and for reassembly. I wanted to put his chest piece on, but it goes after the gun, so I had to make that concession. And I primed them all with Bright Touch General Purpose Gray Car Primer. And now with Eshin Gray, Pallid Witch Flesh, and White Scar White, we're going to do the pre-coating. I'm going to coat them all in Eshin Gray with an airbrush from the bottom to create the shadow. Then I'm going to do the same thing with Pallid Witch Flesh from above to create the lighting, so there'll be a light transitioning to dark. And Pallid Witch Flesh is good for pure white paints have problems, but this off-white paint can come out of the airbrush really well. And then with White Scar White and a tiny, the Army Painter tiny dry brush, I heavily dry brush the models. Now, I do a very thick and thorough dry brushing. I believe I do like essentially 2 coats of dry brushing to get it on very clear and apparent and thickly, and it catches all the edges and does well. One go with the dry brushing, some areas I could see the lines, but they were very faint, and so I wanted them to be very bold, so I did 2 essentially paint jobs of dry brushing. Alright, since the guys are all metal, might as well start with the metal. So with Liquitex Gloss Varnish, Runefang Steel Air, and an assortment of inks, Carbon Black, Transparent Burnt Sienna, and Transparent Raw Sienna, we're going to paint the metals. Now we're going to break down the models into like 4 colors: a dark metal, a steel metal, a light brass, and then a dark golden brass. So we mix Runefang Steel Air with 2 to 3 drops of gloss varnish, like several brushes worth of Runefang Steel Air. Then we add a little bit of the Carbon Black, very small amount because it's very strong, and this will create our black metal. And then we'll paint this all over the dark metal pieces like poles, staves, the Noble's gun, their spine, the joints between their arms and legs, and like their protruding forearms and shins. Yeah. Then once that is done, we're going to go to the regular steel metal. We're going to paint their shoulder pads, their, I don't know what these things are, basically their shoulders and the basic steel metal. It depends on each one. Some of them have more than others. They have their back and shoulder pads, and like the Noble has this thing on his right hand. I painted that as well. And then we go on to brass. So with the brass, I do I basically do, so for all the brass colors, I do 2 coats because it's very thin and pale. So this light brass, I do it on their, I guess, accessories, jewelry? Well, watch the video and you can figure it out. And I do 2 coats of it to make sure the coating is good, because these brass colors are very light. These are transparent inks, and so the undercoat really shines through, and so applying 2, I can still see the undercoat, but the color is strong. And then I do the same thing with the dark gold brass stuff, and I apply that to their chest pieces, their arms, and such, and I do about 2 coats worth of that as well. Alright, and now for oil paints, because oil washes can allow the metallic shine from underneath to really show through so they don't dull the metals that much. So with lamp black, burnt umber, and burnt sienna, we're going to do a bunch of different washes. So first with lamp black, with very little of the black because it's very strong and pigmented, we're going to apply an oil wash onto the black metal and the joints. And we're going to do our usual apply, light wipe, and then apply a second time. This way the first wipe, when it happens, it hits the most raised areas and stuff, and so the second wipe will be strong. The second application of the oil paints will really flood the recesses and make it look like a much better dark to light transition with highlights. And then we're going to do a lamp black mixed with burnt umber, mostly brown and a little bit of black basically, and we're going to apply this to their silver steel parts and their faces as well. We'll apply a little rapidly dry with a hair dryer, and then we will wipe the majority of it away so it's only really in the recesses, and then we'll apply a second coat, and then it'll do some good shading and coloring that way. And then with burnt sienna, we're going to apply this onto the, how should I put it, the whatchamacallit? Oh, by the way, we also applied 2 coats of the brown and black wash onto their medallions and stuff, and I also applied it to their a bunch of thick coats of it into their, I don't know what it is, the Necron symbols and stuff around their neck to add like some dark background to it, to the light symbols on them. And then with the golden burnt sienna stuff, we're going to apply 2 coats of this onto their brass parts of their body. We apply, wipe, and apply. It's basically the pattern. Applies wash, wipe out the excess, only the recesses survive, and then apply a second coat, and then it has a nice color transition. Alright, now to take it to the next level, I would need to highlight all the different metals and stuff, but like I couldn't really find a good paint to do that with. I actually don't have that many regular metals, so I decided to do the cheap way, and it worked out well. With Runefeng Steel Air, I then lightly dry brushed basically over all the models, and it picked out the edges and stuff and really brought out the shine in their metallics and kept the colors. Alright then, using my new duraluminum and exhaust manifold colors from Vallejo Metals, this is basically very bright silver and like a dark metal. And so we're going to paint the battle damage and chips that they have all throughout. So if you look through the models, they have all these like bullet holes or cuts and stuff. So the GW way is like paint the dark metal and then do a light highlight or line of it surrounding the metal. That's a little too difficult to do, and if you don't have the most precise of brushes. So basically, I take the dark color, I take the bright silver color and I just fill the hole with it and a little bit of the surrounding area. Then I take the dark color and I just press a dot of it in the center, and that creates the bullet holes and cuts and scratches, and it works well. Alright, with Tesseract Glow, haven't used that in a while, Moot Green, and Pallid Witch Flesh, we're going to paint the glowing orb things that they have all throughout. So with Tesseract Glow, I'm going to apply this all over the orbs and the canals, basically, that they have all over the models. This will create like a nice little glowy effect, essentially because it's kind of transparent. It'll coat the area in this somewhat see-through green, and so it'll kind of look like it's like a glowing line and stuff. And we'll paint this all throughout the orbs that they have and the lines connecting to them, like channels. And then we're going to paint the orbs all with Moot Green. And then we're going to do a 1-to-1 mix of Moot Green and Pallid Witch Flesh, and we're going to apply this on the top half of each of the orbs. And then we're going to apply even more Pallid Witch Flesh into the Moot Green and apply a fine dot of it, or top quarter of each of the orbs in this color, and creates this nice bright glowing bulb. Alright, now with Caliban Green, Moot Green, and Pallid Witch Flesh, we're going to paint the glaive thing that the Overlord has. So, one paint I didn't show is Lamian Medium. We use a lot of that. So we paint the whole thing in Caliban Green as our base color. And then we mix a bunch of the Caliban Green with Lamian Medium. And basically what I do is I add a bunch of Moot Green into it, or a little bit, and create a nice color transition, add some water, and then I paint one gradient going up and one gradient going down. Then I add more Moot Green, and I paint the thing. Then I add more Moot Green, and then I paint it. And eventually I add a little bit of Pallid Witch Flesh into it, and then I paint that gradient on all sides. And then finally, with a good amount of Pallid Witch Flesh mixed with a Moot Green, I then do my best to paint straight lines on all the edges and things. Edges of the blade, edges of each of the, whatever these things would be called, sections of the blade. Yeah, it takes a while, but I try with as fine a brush as I can. I do go back with some pure Caliban Green to fix some of the trenches that I accidentally painted over, and the round circle parts I kind of screwed up a little bit on his glaive, and so I just filled them with Caliban Green again. And yeah, and it turns out okay. And after a basic simple assembly, I am done. The bases are just simply what I did with Aldrich, my Ulrak character from the Night Haunts. And yeah, and I'm calling it done. Yep. Assembly is pretty straightforward and stuff. I mean, the channel is called Joyful Painting, not Joyful Building. It's like screw building. And so the models are fully assembled and painted. Yeah, this was a good exercise because I've painted these models before on the channel as a group of different Necron models when Dominus first came out, but like my techniques have changed since then, and so I wanted to really practice with the metals and stuff, and this was a good opportunity to sort of understand what I can and can do, get little things better. There are limits here and there. The metal chips and cuts came out very well. The glaive was a tough practice, but I managed it. Yeah, overall, maybe it's just the overall design of the Necrons and stuff, but I don't feel that special about them. Their bases are okay. They look like dead, lifeless Earth, or like moon rock or something. But as far as them themselves, they feel like lackluster. I don't know. I'm going to say they're 7 out of 10 for my work. I don't know. There's nothing really particularly special or noteworthy. That's the one thing about Necrons, is they kind of, while they're all metal, they're kind of look a little, funny to say, but lifeless, or like they don't lack the amount of character or stuff. I don't know, I can't really get into them. I can't really like their appearance that well. And yeah, so I guess I'll move on to some other things. So like the video if you like the video, comment if you want to comment or nitpick or anything like that, and share if you want to share it, and I'll see you soon. Bye.